going on. So.
Thank you. It's just going to be a bad hair day, and I'm going to have to be okay with that.
Sorry.
Wow. Thank you.
I'll just like ruffle mine up so
Thank you.
I look
Even
worse.
it out.
Yeah.
Welcome to the October 2024 edition of City Connection. Brought to you by the Grand Rapids Community Media Center, this live TV program offers the community the chance to hear from and ask questions directly to our local city officials. I'm your host, Allison Donahue. This month, we're joined by First Ward Commissioner Robbins and Joel Hondorp, Grand Rapids City Clerk. Throughout the show, our guests will have time to answer some of your questions and comments. And if you want to participate in this live conversation, you can send your questions to cityconnection@grcmc.org. City Connection, a collaboration between the Community Media Center, GRTV, the City of GR, and the Rapidian, is live today, October 7, 2024, on Community Access TV Channel 24. Welcome, Commissioner Robbins, to City Connection.
Thank you for having me. Great to see you.
Of course, it's been a while since we've had the chance to get you on.
I know.
So always glad when we can.
Absolutely.
So we have a lot of questions here laid out today. I saw some big news this morning, news for high school students in particular.
Yes.
The student Rosa Parks essay contest.
Yeah.
So Grand Rapids High School students have an opportunity to win some money through an essay contest put on by the city. And this year's prompt is Riding with Mrs. Parks. So can you tell us a little bit more about this essay contest?
Sure.
If this is a yearly opportunity and why this prompt? What's the importance of getting students to think about rights and equity?
Absolutely. Yeah, I think this is an exciting opportunity for students to showcase their writing skills for anyone who goes to a high school within the city of Grand Rapids limits. As many people know, Roosevelt Parks is a namesake to an important landmark in our city center, which is Roosevelt Park Circle, and she also has a statue in our downtown area as well. I think it's just a good idea to connect the city, our Community Relations Commission, and our Office of Equity and Engagement with students who have an interest in writing, to be able to showcase those skills, talking about the theme of Roosevelt Parks. And really, I think, being such an important figure in the civil rights movement, being able to step back and sort of examine their own lives and how they can embody a lot of the work that she did back when she was alive too. So yeah, we're encouraging students to apply. The essay's pretty short. I think it's like a page or a page and a half. The city website has some information on what type of outline they can submit, how to submit it, information on the cash prize too, which I'm sure is very exciting to students too. But yeah, we're looking forward to seeing some of that writing, and I think it's just one of many ways that students can practice getting involved with local governance. I think sometimes when we think about local governance, we resort to thinking about the parents and the grandparents, but being able to engage the students themselves and get them, even though they can't vote yet, interested in the process and what that looks like is really important to us as well. So we look forward to seeing some good writing samples. So.
Yeah, definitely. Kind of like the Mayor's Youth Council, too. There's a lot of ways in Grand Rapids for young people to really get involved with civics.
Absolutely.
Essay submissions are due this month, though. They're due on October 24. So if you're interested and you're watching this, get to writing.
Yeah.
Talk to your teachers about it, too. And make a plan.
Yes, very excited. And I know they can submit via email. They can mail it to our city hall as well. And then they'll be announcing the winner, I believe, early December 5th, I want to say.
That's what I saw too.
Yeah, we'll have the grand announcement then. So,
Great.
yeah.
Next month starts November 1st, but got to get in front of the people before.
Yep.
Big holiday here in Grand Rapids. It's the beginning of odd even parking.
Yes, everyone's favorite time.
Everyone's favorite time. Tell us about odd even parking. Why do we do it? Why do we do it?
Yeah, no, I appreciate you bringing this up too, because I know it's not everyone's favorite thing, but it is very important to the well-being of our community and to our city operations. So from November 1st all the way through April 1st, to encompass our colder months of the year, residents park on opposite sides of each street, and this serves a couple purposes. So first of all, snow plowing is probably the one that people are most familiar with. So this gives our city equipment and our snow plows the chance to plow one whole side of the street while residents are parked on the opposite side, and then because it alternates, then they have the opportunity to do so on the opposite side of the street then the next day. But I think even equally as important as that, it serves the purpose of ensuring that our first responder vehicles are able to go down the streets. I know if you think of like the size of an ambulance or a fire truck or a police car compared to a regular residential vehicle, they're often much larger, and so the last thing we want as a city is for somebody to have an emergency and then that response vehicle not be able to get there in time to help meet their needs too. So I know it's not always everyone's favorite thing to do. Sometimes I've remembered at 2 o'clock in the morning and have to run out to my car and move it to the other side of the street, but hopefully understanding that there's multiple important aspects of why people have to do that helps motivate people to want to help take part in that too. So.
Yeah, it helps to just plan ahead when you're parking at night.
Yep.
Be mindful of what time it is and what side of the street you should be parking in.
Yep, 100%.
Another thing coming up later this month is the pitch night for folks to pitch their proposals to reduce violence in Grand Rapids.
Yep.
Tell us more about this proposal plan.
Yeah, absolutely. And a great topic to talk about too. So we have an organization called the Safe Task Force in Grand Rapids. And this idea came about from past commissioners and legislators before my time, but the organization has stuck around because they do some really important work in the community. So each year they host an idea pitch event. So basically any organization within the community who works within the realm of safety, of community, community building, violence reduction, violence prevention, any of those organizations can apply for a grant from this organization. And really it's the goal of it is just to connect funding opportunities with organizations who are already doing such incredible work in the community to make our neighborhood safer. And the deadline I know for this is coming up here in a couple weeks too, but award recipients can receive up to $10,000 for the work that they're doing. I know particularly with this funding round, they're really hoping to target gun violence with younger folk between the ages of 12 and 24. So if any of our listeners work for an organization or volunteer or partner with an organization who works in that space, whether it be helping to prevent or reduce domestic violence or the theme of mental health, things like that, we really want to, as a city, be investing in organizations that are out doing that work hands-on every single day and being able to help provide them for some of the resources that they might need to continue those programs. If anybody has ideas or works with an organization who is in that space, we highly encourage you to apply. We've seen some really awesome outcomes from past recipients who have received this funding. So we're really excited to continue that. Our very own Commissioner Isasi actually sits on the task force board. So happy to connect residents or people in the community with any sort of information if they want to apply for that. But I think public safety takes a huge partnership from our police department to people in the communities and our neighborhood organizations, and so being able to help connect them with resources I think is something that's really meaningful and we're very proud to do.
What would you say are qualities of a successful pitch for this program? Yeah,
that's a great question. If you go to the city website, there's a couple things that are outlined. Really the lens through which the organization is going to look and grade these different organizations is through our city's strategic priorities, the Grand Rapids Police Department strategic priorities, and then the Safe Task Force itself has an acronym called PEACE, and that those 5 items as well kind of help outline sort of the end goal and the outcomes that we're hoping to see from the organizations that we partner with. So being able to read through those and understand how your organization kind of aligns to those priorities, I think would be an awesome way to showcase that your organization, that the work that they're doing is competitive to receive some of that funding.
Great. And I believe the deadline for that is Tuesday, October 29th.
Yes, I believe you're right.
So you're getting close to the end of the month with that one.
Yes.
Another thing coming up this month is October's Commissioner's Night Out.
Yes.
For folks who aren't familiar with Commissioner Nights Out, they happen frequently throughout the year, but tell us a little bit more about them.
Yeah, so Commission Night Out started a few years back, just prior to my time actually. So one of the pieces of feedback we received from our community members was, we do a good job of making our meetings accessible for people who want to come. We try to validate parking. We try to give, good instructions on how to attend and where to find us. But we had some people say, it would be really great if sometime you brought these meetings out to the community itself. And I think we kind of stepped back and thought, like, that's a really great idea. Why have we never thought of that before? And so you're exactly right. 3 times a year, we host one community night out meeting. We do all of our same commission meeting proceedings, but we do it at a location somewhere within our neighborhoods. So this one, I believe, and City Clerk can correct me if I'm wrong when he gets here, but this one's in the 2nd ward. So we rotate each of our 3 meetings between the 3 wards, just with the intent of making our meetings more engaging, being able to host some activities beforehand to get people connected with city staff members if they have questions and things like that. So it should be a really good time. I always have a blast, and we look forward to seeing everyone.
Yeah, I believe GRTV is usually there as well.
Yes, absolutely.
So if you can't make it in person, you can probably find some videos of it.
Yes.
But also just a great opportunity to meet people who are
absolutely
civically minded in your area as well.
Yeah.
Some big news that came out in Grand Rapids recently, and it is in your ward, in the 1st ward.
Yeah.
Are these new riverfront developments coming to Grand Rapids, especially the new ones that were proposed on Market?
Yep.
Could you tell us a little bit about those and kind of the city's role when big developments like that are kind of brought up?
Yeah, no, yeah, absolutely. It's an exciting project. I think change elicits a range of emotions for people, but my take is there's a way to do positive change, and obviously those changes, if not done right, can have negative unintended consequences too. But this project being proposed is a series of towers. It's going to be a mix of office space for a single tenant. There'll be some purely residential, and then also part of it will be a hotel as well. And for those listening in, if you're not familiar, this will be on the property on Fulton and Market, which is where the Charlie's Crab restaurant used to be as well prior to COVID too. So they're in their very early, I would say, infancy phases of development. We're just kind of getting some of the ideas proposed to us and what some of the funding mechanisms would look like to make those happen. But I think, we talk about housing being a huge need within the community, and I think we talk about housing at all price points, and so I think this certainly plays right into that. The development would include a multi-million-dollar donation into the Grand Rapids Housing Affordability Fund as well, which then frees that up to help us, incentivize and make other affordable housing developments throughout the city possible too. So I think it's a win-win. I think it shows that our city is still competitive, and there's not many cities that can still sustain growth or are seeing growth, especially after COVID, but Grand Rapids is, and I think that's something to celebrate. And I think as long as we keep moving forward with some of these projects in a positive manner, I think we've got some really bright days ahead too. So I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, our riverfront especially is growing and changing, and I know we just relocated some mussels so that we can start the process of bringing the rapids back.
The mussels have their new home. They're nice and cozy.
Yeah, so our riverfront may look significantly different, and everything that's going down at the end of Lyon as well. One other piece to this new development proposal is that they're asking, the developers are asking for a transformational brownfield subsidy.
Yes.
For folks who are listening that have no idea what a brownfield is, can you give us some information about it?
Yeah, great question, and I would never expect any resident to know what a brownfield subsidy consists of. But essentially, so a brownfield is any sort of project that is being done on existing infrastructure. So maybe it's like a blighted property or an old factory that no longer serves its use. And I think the most important thing for people to realize is it's not a cash handout. We're not, as a city, just giving money to a developer and saying, here, go have a field day with it. So it's really a tax incentive that's meant to incentivize and draw development in positive ways to some of our brownfield properties, and essentially just kind of offset some of the initial costs that these developers might have. And it's really a win-win because without those developments taking place, like the city is just sitting on property, we're not gaining any sort of tax revenue or seeing any sort of positive changes or activity going on. But then at the same time, the developer is able to get some incentives and help make some of these projects possible, because it is sometimes pricey if there's environmental concerns with some of these properties. It helps sort of offset some of those initial costs to make the properties possible too. So yeah, that is one of the many pieces going into what might finance that project. But yeah, looking forward to it, and I know we'll have some more specifics coming out soon. So.
Yeah, and I'm guessing a brownfield right up against the river might have some other environmental needs that
Yep. No, you're exactly right.
We'll have to consider.
Yep.
So, before we go, and we might want to pick this up in our next round as
Sure.
well, but you sit on other public bodies other than the City Commission in Grand Rapids, like the South Division Granville Corridor Improvement Authority.
Yeah.
Can you tell us a bit about your work specifically with like the Corridor Improvement Authority? I'm not sure a lot of folks are familiar with those bodies.
Yeah, absolutely, and you're exactly right. So I sit on the city's South Division Granville Corridor Improvement Authority. So that encompasses all of South Division, Burton Heights neighborhoods, and then most of our Roosevelt Park neighborhood. So really what a Corridor Improvement Authority does is it has jurisdiction to capture like a small percentage of taxes from all the different activities and commerce that go within its boundaries. And then those that tax capture then is given to the authority to help further incentivize activities, sponsor events, help with infrastructure. So I know a lot of our CIAs will do things like fund the trash can programs, or like add bicycle stands for people to use so that they can make it more of a walkable neighborhood. So it's a really important funding mechanism to help further spur and incentivize more growth within our business districts too. So that board is made up of probably a little less than a dozen people who have a business interest within the community. Maybe they own a business or work for a nonprofit that's within that business district too. So it's a cool way. They function as really strong community connectors, just partnering with businesses and people within the community to help just see positive growth within the boundaries of those CIAs. So.
Yeah, we have Grand Rapids documentaries who cover public meetings around the
That's
city.
That's right, yep.
And we always find that the CIAs tend to be some of the more interesting meetings that people
I agree. I completely agree. Yep.
It's hyper local, which we love, and has a lot. It seems like things happen a little bit quicker at that level, and conversation flows. So if you're interested in going to any public meetings, CIAs might be a good place to start. And
absolutely, every meeting we do is public forum, so we always welcome people, whether you're interested or just want to get caught up on what we're doing. We always invite people to come out, and there's always typically a public comment section reserved too for people who want to share their thoughts on a certain issue. But yeah, they're great organizations that do some really awesome work that often kind of flies under the radar. So.
Yeah. Well, great. It is now time for our first break.
Awesome.
Commissioner Robbins will be back after this break, and we'll take your questions when we get back.
All right.
So if you'd still like to take part in the conversation, send your questions to cityconnection@grcmc.org. Thanks.
All right.
For over 30 years after humble beginnings as a public access TV station, the Community Media Center has grown to be an active, multi-platform media and technology assistance organization, encouraging and enabling our community to push the creative boundaries. We power a variety of resources, including a music-centered community radio station, WYCE, a community venue with stage and screen at Wealthy Theater, citizen-driven journalism with the Rapidian, a web development team empowering local nonprofits, an education department that trains and broadens students' minds, and a free speech public access television studio, GRTV, where it all began. By introducing audiences to new voices and ideas, we enhance community engagement and create connections between artists and audiences, enriching our city's cultural offerings. We empower and collaborate with platforms and resources accessible to all and used by all. Every free democratic society depends on media, accessible to the community and uncensored by government. The Community Media Center continues this work for the media landscape of today and tomorrow. These platforms and services empower our neighbors to tell their stories and explore the richness of culture that Grand Rapids has to offer. Connect, discover, learn, create, and share. The Grand Rapids Community Media Center.
Back to City Connection. With us today is Commissioner Robbins, who will answer some questions from our viewers. I believe we've gotten some questions already from that first segment, so let's see. This one comes from Miko. They asked, when you ran for commissioner, you listed your #1 priority as helping GRPD transition from warriors to guardians, but GR police continue to have trust issues with the community. What steps can we take to establish the police as a trusted force on the community?
Yeah, that's a great question, and I was and still am very passionate about the issue of safety within our community. First and foremost, I think we hired an amazing chief police. I would hope all of our listeners have had a chance to meet with him or engage with him in one of the meetings, but he's done a fantastic job of understanding the need for our police department to be within our community proactively, talking to people, building relationships, and I think we're just kind of starting in the infancy of that within the past couple of years, but I think that being able to continue to do that is going to pay huge dividends in rebuilding, relationships between certain parts of our community who might not always trust our police department. So I think that's certainly exciting. I think community policing is a big thing that we hear a lot about too. Several years back, it was, probably close to 10 years ago at this point, there was a study that came out that essentially said community policing was an obsolete practice. And I think, many cities, not just Grand Rapids, followed that practice and made some changes, but very quickly found that community policing was one of the most asked for things. People want to know that their kids, if they're out playing, basketball at the park, they know that the officer who might check on them is, Officer XYZ and somebody who's a familiar face. So I'm certainly excited to bring that back. I hope we do so in the very near future. We're nearly back to fully staffed as a police department, which is a huge win as well. I know there's a lot of police departments from cities around the country who are still reeling from a lot of the deficits that they saw in recruiting, and so being able to kind of buck that trend as a city, I think, is also very exciting. But at the end of the day, I think it just comes down to good, high-quality training and our police department being able to be out in the community building relationships with people. And I think that social currency and that relationships that form when that happens are really what pays dividends in being able to build trust again within the community. So I think there's certainly more work to be done, but I think we're taking some amazing steps. We have the best police chief at the helm who's doing this work and spearheading that. And so I really feel like our city's best days in terms of safety are still lying ahead of us.
Yeah, we had Police Chief Winstrom on last month.
Awesome.
Said the same thing. He pretty much will go anywhere he's invited.
Yep.
So if you want to meet him, you have the
Absolutely. I know it's always an open invitation with him. I know I've gotten to know him very well. and have utmost respect for him and the work and the approach that he's taking to his job. So yeah, highly encourage everybody to get a chance to meet the man. So he's great.
This question comes from Dean. Dean asks, there is tons of development happening in the First Ward, or at least proposed with the amphitheater, soccer stadium, zoo parking, aquarium, etc. That is a long list.
Yes.
How is the city helping those who have lived in these areas forever? This is going to drastically affect traffic, parking, and safety in these neighborhoods.
Yeah, it's also a great question. Like I was saying to you earlier, I think the spotlight really is on the First Ward right now. I know it spans a large portion of our city geographically, but many of these large projects that are in the proposal stages do fall within the First Ward. And so like I said before, I think change can be a very positive thing, but even positive change can have unintended consequences. And so my role as a commissioner is always to do whatever I can to mitigate any sort of negative consequences that might come from something that could be very beneficial for the community. And so I think all these developments are no exception to that. I'm in consistent contact with many of my neighbors, our neighborhood associations, our business corridors. My opinion is only as informed as the people that I ask about and hear their thoughts and hear their lived experiences. So that's always been my commitment is, I think some of these ideas that are on our city's horizon can be exciting, but of course we want to make sure that they're done in a way that is benefiting and inviting a lot of our residents along into that positive change and opportunity that can come with those too. So yeah, and again, I know many of them are still just in their beginning stages, with the exception of maybe the amphitheater is the only one that's under construction as of right now. But there certainly always is additional time to be able to share your thoughts and your feedback about what the impacts of those projects might be. But at the end of the day, we have a lot of really smart people who are having those conversations and looking at things like parking and traffic and how it can impact our neighborhoods. So I have utmost confidence that those people, I know that they have nothing but the best intentions for our city as a whole and for our nearby neighborhoods in mind. And I'm confident that, as we see some of these come to fruition, that they're going to be done in a way that benefits everybody.
I don't know that I'm up to date on this, but the residential parking permit.
Yeah, yep.
I don't know where that conversation is now, but is that kind of in response to these growing proposed developments?
It is and it isn't. So in order to be eligible for an RPP program, residential parking permit, a neighborhood has to meet certain metrics in terms of how many people are parking, how many parking spots are open at any given time. So some of that was done in response, and nothing's been proposed. I think people had the idea that this was coming down the road and they were just going to have to get ready for it. But that's not the case, and I don't want people to think that. I think it was done in good faith by our city staff, assuming that they're, as our city continues to grow, parking is something that people want to keep an eye on. But we actually just at our mobile GR commission meeting this past week discussed just wanting to have the data ready and wanting to make sure it's something that residents are buying into and have interest in. So I'm really hopeful that, as we consider what an RPP program might look like for various neighborhoods, it's done in a way that's considering the community first and having them engage with our neighborhood organizations to say like, hey, you know what, I see parking on my street has been worse in the past couple of years. Where are things with the RPP for our current neighborhood? So yeah, I think it's certainly an option. It's never anything we want to force on a neighborhood and say like, sorry, this is what you're getting. You're going to have to deal with it. The end goal of those is to benefit the neighborhoods and make sure people there are getting first priority with parking, which I think is a very fair ask. And yeah, as we continue to see some of these projects come online, if parking does become an issue, I think that's certainly a conversation we're ready and willing to have. But of course, it's something that will never happen without thorough community engagement and making sure it's something that people want.
Great, thanks for that update.
Yeah.
This question comes from Elena. Your fellow First Ward Commissioner is not up for re-election.
Yes.
What qualities or priorities do you hope to see in the next person elected?
Yeah, that's a fantastic question. I will say Commissioner O'Connor has grown to be a very dear friend of mine. I didn't know him before I was elected as a commissioner, but I think he adds such a strong just a wise and very policy-focused perspective to the commission, and that's something that I think we really need. I think too, he was always very, certain that local politics is one part of politics that doesn't have to be partisan. And I think that's something that I'm very passionate about too is, people get very quickly sick of politics at the national and the state level too. It turns into white noise. And so I think local politics is one of the only places left in our country where we can still say, I'm voting for this candidate not because of what labels they have attached to them, but what I think their lived experience and their wisdom is going to offer the city. So I think in honoring that priority of Commissioner O'Connor's too, I think that's something that I'm very hopeful, not just people in the first ward, but people across the city consider as they're voting for our city commission.
Cool. This question comes from Lynn. Lynn says, I have been to a few city commission meetings and I've seen people get up and talk during public comment, but it never seems to change the minds of the commissioners. Is there a better place to talk to commissioners that will actually make a difference?
It's a good question. I always encourage people, I think sometimes people think showing up to a commission meeting and using the public comment period is the only way that you can engage with us. And I just hope people realize that we are always answering the phone, we're looking at our emails. When people engage with our neighborhood organizations, they're consistently relaying, those themes that they're hearing over to us as well too. So I think just reminding people there are so many outlets to be able to engage with the commission and share feedback. I hope people take hold of all of those different opportunities and hope that they don't feel like they have to show up to a meeting in person. I think, sometimes those days we get sometimes dozens of people who are showing up and sharing, a very wide range of different ideas and thoughts on various issues that we're considering on, but we listen. I'm always taking notes as people speak, and I do consider everything I hear and every opinion that's brought before me as I'm making these decisions. So I hope people don't feel like when they, share something or propose an idea to us that it's falling on deaf ears, because that certainly is not the truth. So
yeah, just standard procedure,
yes.
Not to respond.
Exactly, and that's one big thing too. I think us not having a practice of responding right then and there does make people, and I can see why that would make people feel like we aren't listening. But yeah, in just fairness, and that's our protocol is, it's our time to listen. We do a lot of speaking throughout the day, but that's our time to listen and not to respond. So.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'll slide in one more question from Marianne. I keep hearing that the Rapids are coming back, but then they're not. But then they are again. What is the status of the River Rapids?
Yes, fantastic question. The Rapids are coming back. It's not 100% how it was originally envisioned to be. A project of that scale requires a lot of coordination locally and especially with the state and our different environmental agencies that we work with. So before my time even, the permits and the proposals that were initially given didn't receive all of the go-aheads that we were hoping to, but they essentially said, if you tweak these things, we'll let you, resubmit your proposal and you can do this other 80% of what you were hoping for. So yes, the river has been a goal of Mayor Bliss's since she's been in office. It's something I'm very excited about, but yes, we are taking a lot of drastic steps to remove or to make the Grand Rapids more like its natural state. If people go downtown right now, they'll see that there's a lot of that work starting currently. Like you mentioned, the endangered mussel species has been removed and relocated to a more proper home too, so we can put that work underway too. But yeah, it's exciting. I think, we think about it's our city's namesake. It's at the very center geographically of our entire community, and so being able to help return it to a state that more reflects how it's been for the past generations is a really exciting thing.
And I believe by next summer, construction on the dams should happen as
yes.
well.
Yeah, it'll happen pretty quick. I know a lot of the time we were waiting on was on some of those permitting pieces, but now that that's mostly underway, we were given the go-ahead to start doing the work, so it's going to happen excitingly fast. So.
Cool. Well, it is now time for another break. Thank you so much for taking those questions. And when we return, we'll be joined by City Clerk Joel Hondorp to talk about the election coming up next month. Welcome back to City Connection. If you're just now tuning in, I'm Allison Donahue, and we're here with City Clerk Joel Hondorp to talk about the upcoming election here in Grand Rapids and nationwide. But in Grand Rapids, we have some pretty important local elections. So thank you. Thanks for coming on City Connection.
Glad to be here, as always.
Yeah. We're always happy to have you. So it's early October. Folks know there's an election coming up. It's pretty hard to be anywhere and not hear about it at this point. What are some key dates going forward that Grand Rapids voters need to have in the back of their mind?
Well, the first one is I always like to say today. Today's an important day because absentee ballots are available. We've mailed out about 32,000 absentee ballots and have 4,000 back in. So you can get yours today. It's real easy. You can go online to michigan.gov/vote and request an absentee ballot right there, and we'll mail it out the next day, or you can come down to the clerk's office and get it. So today is an important election day. And then looking at other things that are upcoming, October 21 is the last day that you can register to vote online to vote in this election, or by mail, or at like a voter registration. After that, from October 22 through election day, you have to register in person at the clerk's office. And then another big day that's coming up is October 26th will be the first day of early voting. And then we'll have 9 days of early voting. And of course, the big day is November 5.
So tell us about early voting. Why do we have this third option now? And what makes it different from absentee voting?
Right. The voters of Michigan adopted a proposal in 2022, Proposal 2 of 2022, that allows for at least 9 days of early voting. And so it has to be, ends the Sunday before the election and then count back 9 days, which would be then Saturday the 26th. So early voting is very similar to going to your polling location on election day. You'll fill out an application to vote. We'll ask you to see your photo ID. If you don't have it with you, you'll fill out an affidavit stating who you are. Then you'll be given a ballot, and then you vote the ballot and you put it through a tabulator. So it looks like a lot of election day. Where it's different is not all polling locations are open during those 9 days. We have 4 locations throughout the city. And so you can either go to GRPS University, which was where the next commission night out is.
Great.
And that'll be in the 2nd ward. The 1st ward location is at St. Peter and Paul School. The 3rd ward location is Ottawa Hills High School in their old cafeteria on Rosewood. And then the 4th location that we didn't use before is DeVos Place, which is right downtown. So, but you can go to any one of those. So if you live in the northwest side and you happen to be out by Woodland Mall area, stop at Ottawa Hills, or vice versa. So it looks very similar to that. And then during those 9 days of early voting, we won't be closing the tabulators. We'll just suspend voting, and so we won't close those tabulators until election night. So they'll sit in a secured location for a couple days, so no one will know what the results are.
So it doesn't necessarily make your job any easier. With like counting in advance?
It's not that it doesn't make it easier. It spreads out the work a little bit too. Instead of having maybe long lines on election day, same thing with increases in absentee voting. All those different methods might be a little more work on the prep side, but it'll make it more enjoyable for the election workers and the voters, because they might not have as much pressure on them all in one time frame.
Have you noticed that here in Grand Rapids, since we've expanded the requirements for absentee, whether voting lines have gone down or have been...
So that has been the case. So if you look back to 2016, before the presidential election, before COVID, we look at before COVID and after COVID now. And in 2016 we had and voting changes. So in that election we had 16,000 absentee voters, which means there's a lot more people at the precincts. In 2020, we had 60,000, so we went from 16 to 60,000 absentee voters. So that means election day was pretty slow in that election. And now we've seen a kind of a turn back to in precinct, but during the February and August election, there were more voters that voted absentee than voted in person. So we'll see about 90,000 voters probably for this election, and we've done about 32,000. We'll probably issue a few more thousand ballots. So we'll see about 50,000 in the precincts or so, a little more than that. So it's about an average of like 700 to 800 people per precinct. Some will be higher, some will be lower, but that's still a lot less than what it was 8 years ago.
So this election is a little different. It's our first time voting for the mayor the same time as we're voting for president. And at the Rapidian, we're hyper-local focused. So making sure that people don't forget about that nonpartisan section, those local elections on their voter ballot. How can voters stay informed about these important elections that maybe don't get as much airtime as the presidential election? And why should they take the time to vote on them?
Well, follow the Rapidian for one, right?
Thank you.
That would be one way to do things, and look for those local edges. I mean, it's buying airtime is going to be almost impossible for any kind of local election. I mean, it's hard enough, it looks like, for state representative candidates to get airtime with all that are going on. So it's going to be a very social media and word of mouth, maybe even like old school campaign of like actually going door to door, friends mailing postcards to each other. So I think it's going to have to be very hyper local. In order to run these campaigns. I'm seeing it with like school board elections too, of friend-to-friend things, text chains. Where I think the new way of campaigning is, I don't know if your texts are looking like my texts. Candidates and parties are using more text messaging. And if you have an absentee ballot and haven't returned, if you want those texts to stop, return your absentee ballot, because campaigns are getting more suave with chasing absentee ballots too. So as soon as you get your absentee ballot back in, they'll stop chasing that absentee back. They know you have a ballot in your hand. They want you to turn that in.
Yeah.
So those are things that we're going to see that are different. So when you're talking about like mayor and city commission campaigns and school elections, getting caught up in that, I think they cut through the noise because of social media, which we didn't have years ago. So even in the last 10 years, that social media push can get you like really pushed into where certain areas, especially if candidates are buying ads on Facebook and Instagram and others.
I will also do a little bit more self-promotion here. The Rapidian and GRTV are hosting a debate between the two mayoral candidates at Wealthy Theater on October 21st. So if you'd like to hear directly from them about their policies and what they plan to do, that's a great spot. And the Rapidian is also about to put out a questionnaire from the GRPS Board of Education candidates as well. So if you need some reading materials for local elections.
And if you need to register to vote, I'll have a table at that event.
You will.
So I'll be there. I'll be there as well. So that's that last day, October 21.
Yep.
But you're registering with the clerk, so it'll be good.
You'll be safe. But yeah, October 21. It's a good day to get civically engaged. 2 weeks from today, actually. So for folks who might not be sure about their voter registration status, or they still do need to register to vote, I know we talked about that October 21 deadline, but what about checking voter registration? How can folks do that?
Michigan.gov/vote, Michigan./vote, 3 times, Michigan.gov/vote.
Perfect.
I'll shout it from the rooftops. That website is a powerful website. I don't think voters understand how much stuff is there. First of all, you can check your voter registration. You can change your voter registration on there. You can see a sample ballot, and those sample ballots have links, I believe, to some of their campaign finance stuff for like statewide candidates. You can see where early voting sites are, where ballot drop boxes are. You can see if we mailed you your absentee ballot. You can see if we received your absentee ballot. So there's a lot there.
Yeah, so basically if you have any voting anxiety, I know that some reasons folks don't want to do absentee, they want to see that it gets counted.
Yep. Well, they can still do that too. So there's a new election law that got changed that says you can, so now it's kind of like, so we talked about three ways, absentee, early or in person on election day. Well, now you can have kind of a hybrid because you can take your absentee ballot to the precinct or the early voting site and put that ballot through the tabulator yourself. So you can get the ballot sent to you, take some time at the kitchen table, watch the gazillion TV commercials, read Rapidian news, and kind of look at what's out there, make your informed decision, then take that ballot with you with the stub still attached and bring it to the early voting site or to your precinct and watch it go in the tabulator. So kind of like a hybrid voting method.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah, there are so many ways to vote. There are no excuses.
There are not very many. That's why we're a very low provisional ballot state, because you have so many time, so much time to go register as well.
Yeah. Well, it is time for a break, but when we come back, we'll be taking questions from the community, and there's still time to take part in this conversation. So especially if you have election questions as we come up on the election, send your questions into cityconnection@grcmc.org. Stay tuned.
It's morning in Grand Rapids. Do you know what's going on in your city? Stay informed about what's happening in your community with The Rapidian, your source for hyperlocal news and information. The Rapidian is a community-focused news source powered by local residents like you. Our volunteer writers and reporters create content that hits close to home about topics like local government, business, schools, events, and people. The Rapidian goes beyond the headlines to provide in-depth coverage of issues that affect Grand Rapids directly, so you can stay in the know. We aim to uplift the community by sharing positive, inspiring stories of growth, progress, and neighborhood pride. The Rapidian is your neighborhood newspaper for the digital age. Follow us on our website and social media to stay connected to your community. This is The Rapidian.
And we're back. Here with us on City Connection is City Clerk Joel Hondorp, and we again have Drew Robbins, First Ward Commissioner, here with us again. And we have more questions from viewers, so let's get back into it. This first question is for Joel. It's from George. George wants to know, will voters in GR get a chance to get one of those great new werewolf I voted stickers?
Well, I don't have them yet. So the Bureau of Elections are going to be sending out our sticker kits to all the clerks, but we can't order more because of artist rights and various other things. So I don't know how many we're going to be getting. So I'm trying to push people to early voting. So I think if you want to find them, you're going to have to find them at early voting. And where would better to find a werewolf sticker than on Halloween? So maybe I just hold them for October 31. You can come trick or treat at an early voting location.
I haven't even decided what sticker I want yet.
Well, and one of them was designed. So one of them was designed by a Grand Rapidian. The one that says "Ope, I voted."
Yep.
So I didn't know there was a lot of Scandinavian people that talk like Minnesotans in Grand Rapids, but no, very very creative stickers. It was a fun contest.
Yeah, it was great. I like all of them. I think I'm going to do the fish one. Another question, this one comes from Ben. How are you making sure that voters aren't voting at multiple locations during early voting if they don't have to vote at their election location?
That's a great question. And part of that security is, so what's different, the other thing that's different between early voting and in-person and precinct voting is the electronic poll book where we're looking up your information is dynamic. It's live to the internet with several protections. There's like four level of multi-factor authentication in order to log in. So it's live. As soon as you vote, as soon as we check you in at an early voting site, is talking to the qualified voter file. You can't change your voter registration after that. You can't go to another site. We will know. If you try to return if you already have an absentee ballot and haven't returned it yet, you can vote in person, but if you try to return your absentee ballot, we'll reject it because we already know that you voted. So that's because that's the difference. Whereas on election day, that is not a live website. That's not a live link to the qualified voter file, only because it's just so many locations out there that it would bog down a system. The state system can take early voting and make it work. So that's how we protect that.
Good. This question is from Vianne, sorry if I'm saying your name wrong. When will we know the results of local elections?
When we're done tabulating ballots. So I know I say that tongue in cheek. So we're not going to rush. So we talk about things like early voting. There's a lot of election laws that have changed, and one of the ones that this clerk wanted forever and finally got, a boy can dream about laws that he wants and finally gets, and one of them is the early tabulation of absentee ballots. If you remember in 2020, it was not a fun 72 hours for me. I mean, I was up for 72 hours and we were rushing to beat Detroit, get done before Detroit. But we couldn't start counting ballots until 7 o'clock on election day. Now we can start counting up to two Mondays before the election. So we're going to start tabulating absentee ballots a week before the election. And so that will help us get election results quicker at night. That's one thing. And then viewers need to remember that on election night, those are unofficial results. There's a lot of things that happen because we have military and overseas ballots that if they're postmarked, we can add those to the count. If someone didn't sign their absentee ballot or their signatures don't match, they can cure their signature. They got 3 days to change that. If there's any provisional ballots, those things can be added. So viewers need to know that on election night, those are unofficial results until the County Board of Canvassers do their work over the next 2 weeks to make them official. But if it's not a very close election, you should probably know somewhere late evening, early in the morning. Might not know Pennsylvania stuff, but that's a whole nother show.
Yeah. So, yeah, it is interesting. Now it is your first election then with absentee.
Yeah, so we did pre-processing in August and February, and talk about taking a lot of pressure off of our team.
Yeah.
We start for August and February. We started on Friday, did Friday, Saturday, Sunday afternoon, and then we didn't have any ballots to count on Monday. And then Tuesday we worked for a little bit, and then we sent people home for hours until we got to the nighttime. We would never have that on election night, which means then people were fresh coming in for that last bit of ballots.
Great. Question from Shauna. How do campaigns know that I have an absentee ballot? Is that public information?
Yeah. So this is my saying for that. How you vote is public. No, sorry. That you vote is public. How you vote is private. Let me say that again, so make sure we're clear on it. Mm-hmm. That you vote is public. How you vote is private. And so being a voter is a public act. What's on your ballot is private. So that's why that information is available by FOIA, but not all your information is disclosed. We don't disclose your month and date of birth, and we don't disclose your driver's license number or your social security number or any of your contact information. They get your contact information from somewhere else, but we're not sharing emails or phone numbers. They get that from others. That's why it's mostly mail. Unless some other group out there has been collecting phone numbers from something else.
Someone got my phone number, and they have been texting me. This is a question for the commissioner from Tom. I almost got ran over by some kids on a Lime bike. Is there an age requirement to ride one, and how do I complain? Who do I complain to about these?
Yes, great question. I know the Lime devices, whether it's a scooter or bike, are kind of a hot topic right now. There's benefits and some challenges with them. We did just receive news this past month that Grand Rapids is in the top 10 cities in the country that for utilization rates of these. So I think we're between like New York City and Portland, Oregon. So they are very well utilized in our community. People use them to commute. People use them for recreation, for tourism. So we're excited to have them as a resource for people, but there are a lot of conversations going on right now about the safety of them too. If people have concerns, they're welcome to email myself directly. I do sit on the Mobile GR Commission, and I'm happy to relay those to the rest of our commission. But yeah, we're doing a lot of conversations about signage. A lot of people don't know that actually in the downtown development district, people have to ride on the street or use a bike lane when they're operating those vehicles. Elsewhere, they can use sidewalks and preferably still the bike lanes if they're present. But things like that, I think there's a lot of opportunities to educate people on how to use them safely. Reminding people they're supposed to be using a helmet anytime they're riding one. Making sure there's only one operator. I've seen some instances of people sharing them if it's like a little sibling or something. While it might work, it's not recommended and is technically against the rules too. So looking forward to some additional conversations that we have in public engagement around how to use them safely, and hopefully we'll prevent any issues we have. We've had very little incidences in terms of injuries that people have received. The vast majority, I think it's only a couple dozen over the course of a year, are typically when two people on scooters collide versus with a vehicle that's out in the right of way in the road. So fortunately we haven't had too many issues, but I know there are a lot of close to call incidences too that we want to be very mindful of, and I'm hopeful that moving forward as we continue this program, we can do it in a way that's keeping everybody safe, whether you're a driver, whether you're a pedestrian, whether you're a user in the vehicles too.
I know a lot of people like to use them after
Yes.
the bars and stuff too,
Yep.
which I also don't totally recommend.
Absolutely.
There are Ubers still.
Yep.
A question for Joel from Will. Would the city clerk's office employ staff or volunteers to go door to door?
We do not. There's only a certain amount of stuff that the clerk's office can accomplish. So I say we do election administration. So we will take care of your ballot from beginning to end. But if it's going door to door, I think he's talking about like get out the vote type stuff. So we leave that to campaigns and nonprofit groups that are out there for getting that out. That I feel that's in their wheelhouse because of the staffing and the budget that we have. We'll take care of election administration, and we'll take care of any voter that a get out the vote effort sends our way.
Great. A question for the commissioner. What did you learn after your first term as commissioner? You're just about wrapped up with that, correct?
2 years in to a 4-year term. Yep.
Oh, 4 year. Okay.
Yes.
And what are you most proud of? So what have you learned? What are you most proud of?
Yeah. I think, and I don't talk a whole lot about my own accomplishments, but I think, when it comes to local governance especially, it takes a lot of listening, and it takes an open mind to different thoughts and ideas. And I think it really just takes steady, wise decision making where you can remove yourself from a very emotionally charged situation on both ends and be able to think what you really think at the end of the day based on your values is the wisest decision. So that's something that I think many commissioners before myself have been able to really embody, and it's something that I really try to achieve. I know I've mentioned Commissioner O'Connor is something I absolutely respect that he's able to do. Mayor Bliss as well, I have utmost respect for her and her ability to make wise policy decisions too. So that's something that I hope I embody and is something I want to make a cornerstone of my time on the dais, however long it will be.
Question from Ken. Who counts ballots? How do we make sure they're accurate and unbiased?
So we hire election inspectors. We call them election workers. Other places call them judges or whatever, but they're election inspectors. So we hire them, and we have to have at least one Republican and at least one Democrat in every precinct. So to give that balance. So we hire them. We're doing training. I'm doing 3 training classes today. I'm here in between 2 classes.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, and so they are trained. We do employ them, so they're not technically volunteers. They are the state law is very stringent on how we do the process. And so there's a lot of checks and balances. So a lot of things like sealing ballot bags, transporting ballots, checking the results are all done in a very bipartisan fashion. Matter of fact, to be an election worker, you can't be an independent. You have to choose a political party. So we have people that are mostly Republicans or Democrats, but we still have some Libertarians, Green Party, U.S. taxpayer, natural law. So it's kind of difficult for someone who definitely declares himself as an independent. Unfortunately, there's not a place for them in the election process because they want to make it a very bipartisan or a multi-partisan affair rather than people that we might not know their affiliations.
Interesting. I didn't know that.
I didn't either.
I'm going to ask this question really quick right before we go, because it goes back to our question about gun policy.
Yes.
How much money is available through the SAFE Task Force? This is a question from Ron.
Great question. I will let the city website be the gospel on this, but I believe it's 5 organizations selected up to $10,000 each. I don't know if you know off the top
I
of
don't
your
know
head.
off the top of my head.
It's about that metric. So yeah, and if people have any interest in applying, send me an email. I'm happy to connect people with the application process.
Cool. Yeah, city website, you'll learn all about it. So great. Thank you both so much for taking questions, not only from me, but from the folks at home.
Great.
And that's all the time we have today. Thank you again to our guests for coming in, and thank you to all of you at home for tuning in and sending in your questions. Don't forget, you can always watch rebroadcasts throughout the entire month of October on Cable GRTV's Channel 25 or our YouTube page. See you next month, Grand Rapids.
The Grand Rapids Community Media Center is committed to creating a diverse and inclusive environment for all community members. It is a place where community voices are heard, valued, and lifted through media. We seek to provide area residents with a platform to participate in free speech, be engaged with the community, and share their diverse voices. As a multimedia platform organization, we provide and support a variety of community resources, including our radio station, WYCE 88.1 FM, our TV station, GRTV, our hyper-local news program, The Rapidian, web services, and our historic theater, Wealthy Theater.
WYCE is West Michigan's only community radio station that is listener-supported and volunteer-powered. WYCE uses local voices to help listeners discover and celebrate different services, cultures, and events. What I really like about programming music in WYCE is I get to not only interact with listeners and local musicians, but I get to put together a musical collage every week and give it away to the universe. As a volunteer programmer, you get the training on how to use equipment, how to access music from the library, and how to put together a great show that showcases local and national artists and still has your creativity included.
The Web Services Department helps West Michigan nonprofits connect, learn, create, and share through locally built and accessible websites. We help nonprofits strengthen their online presence by developing one-of-a-kind websites tailored to their specific needs. The Web Services team can take care of all the technical needs of getting a new site up and running, including website hosting, domain name registration, theme development, and page layout. Websites are built with accessibility and responsiveness in mind, making sure our projects are available on any screen and accessible to people of all abilities. We are passionate about helping organizations in the nonprofit sector effectively communicate their stories online, promoting equity and media access with our affordable services.
Wealthy Theater is a historic theater on the southeast side of Grand Rapids. It was built in 1911, and today it stands as a performing arts center, historic cinema, and community venue. We provide a space for community connection, where community members can get together, enjoy different shows and different events. From concerts to comedy, musicals, theater, film screenings, you name it. Anybody from the community can sign up to be a member and rent one of our spaces to host their event. We have a staff here at the theater that helps make all the events here happen, as well as a great community of volunteers. The goal is to bring the community together, bring audiences together, artists together, create experiences where those two can connect. Whether you're an audience member who wants to come see a show, or you're somebody who wants to put on a show, Wealthy Theater is a space for you.
The Rapidian is a hyper-local news source powered by, for, and of the people of Grand Rapids, Michigan. We launched in 2009 using funds from local organizations and generous donors, and this community-driven platform empowers residents to share their stories, post articles, and keep track of local events and issues. By emphasizing citizen journalism, the Rapidian provides a unique grassroots perspective and a vital news service for the residents of Grand Rapids. In 2023, we are relaunching the Rapidian with the Grand Rapids Documenters program, where we train and pay local citizens to cover public meetings, empowering residents with the tools and resources to strengthen the news media landscape in Grand Rapids and become more civically engaged.
GRTV airs public access television programming made by and for the Grand Rapids community, amplifying their voices to support a diverse and vibrant democracy. We provide the tools, training, and broadcast platform for free speech. Community members can take classes on video and production features, borrow professional equipment, editing software, and use of our studio facilities to create their own content. We help community members connect, learn, create, and share.